spent a lot of quality time with the family, and there's all our life we keep complaining that we have no time, we have no time. So here we got a lot of time, so I was like doing a lot of backup of my data and trying to finish stuff, cleaning the house, lots of things we should keep putting off. So I made the best of whatever we could do with that time. So initially it was very exciting for them because it was something new, and nowadays kids love gadgets, love technology. So it was very very exciting for them. So my kids were quite tech savvy. And they got into setting up their Microsoft Teams, and they were doing their whole thing. And in fact, they were explaining to me, this is how this works, this is how this works. And when the school did a few conference calls trying to explain, so we attended those calls, trying to understand how it works. They expected a lot of help from us in terms of how to do this, how to do that. So we were also working from home. So I used to literally be scanning their work and uploading it for them, and teaching them, how to take pictures of the work and uploading them through the scanning software and stuff. They understood pretty easily, and initially they were very attentive. Cameras were always on. Then they all find their hacks and their ways to kind of, my internet connection is down, and so we have to keep a watch on them. But I think they've done pretty well, better than I expected, to be honest. I mean, had this pandemic happened when we were kids, we would have not even had this. We didn't even have a computer in those days, So I think they managed pretty well, and now they're champions at online. Now when I have to do a Zoom call or a meet on a Google Meet or something, they do my setup before I enter the frame. So they've become quite champs at this, right? I do use the screen time option, and I try to limit that as much as possible post their school work is done, because full day they're in front of the computer and they're doing their work, and then they're submitting their work, and then they want to do a little bit of, chatting and browsing and Instagram and other stuff. So I limit that extra part, where we can tell them to take it easy. In the evening, I'll sit them and take them for a drive. Don't step out of the car, but at least go out and see a little bit, in terms of get some air, see what the world is looking like, rather than in those four walls. For the first 1 year, I think they didn't step out at all, because we also didn't know much about COVID. We didn't understand, so we were all minimizing the going out as much as possible. I used to go out only for work or only for shopping, groceries and stuff like that. So the kids initially for the first 1 year didn't step out at all. The first time I remember we took them out was to a bookshop, so they could pick up some books, and rather than looking at screens, we picked up some actual real books that they could read. So we try to limit that as much as possible. But I guess that's the need of the hour right now. There's not that much we can do, but all we can do is just I explain to them to hydrate their eyes, use eye drops for kind of cooling their eyes down, and try to keep them hydrated. Try to whenever like they're doing a class which is not like a PE or during physical education, I used to say don't stand in front of the screen and do it. You can stand away, So like stay away from the screen and yet do those classes which don't require to actually stare at the screen. So we try to minimize it, but to be honest, I mean, they need it as much as well, because by the time they submit their homework, they are, the whole day goes in front of the screen. Honestly, I didn't think there was an option. They go to Ambani school, and I feel the teachers did an amazing job. and they are literally teaching them like as if they are their own kids, and I've seen the teachers are very kind. They've been very chilled out in terms of they're not pressurizing them too much, so even the homework is to be minimal, there's not much. I mean, there's not like it's burdening them, and even in the parents teachers meeting, the teachers were very, very easy, they said that we totally understand. For them, for the kids, it's a completely, I mean, different experience, so I think that the we never thought of homeschooling because the teachers and the school has been really helpful in terms of helping them cope with the new system, so yeah, to be honest, homeschooling was never an option. To be very honest, the age gap between three of them is not much. There's one is 1 year apart, and the other one is 2 years apart from the middle one. So they are pretty much very close and good friends with each other. They don't really have rivalry, and since the beginning, when Manisha and me have uh, bought anything, we've always bought it in three. Like, so even if we are buying a chocolate or a toffee, it's bought in three, or today. So for the matter, like I remember this incident when I went uh, to my eye doctor, and I'd gone to check my number, and I'd taken one kid with me. Here, my son came with me, and he the doctor saw him, and after my checkup was done, he offered him a chocolate. So my son said, "I'm going to take three." He was very young, but he told my eye doctor that I'm going to take three, one for me and two for my sister. So my doctor was very impressed. That he says, "Wow, I mean, he has that value that okay, when he's taking something, he has to take back something for the two sisters. So all three are equal." So I think that if you engrave that from the very beginning, I feel you can avoid the sibling rivalry thing. And I feel that making them like more like friends, even for me, they can come up and tell me anything. And and from the very beginning, someone had told me when my first one was born, that when you talk to them, don't talk gibberish. Don't talk like if there's a question they ask you, try and give a real answer. Don't say they won't understand. They're too young. They understand everything. It stays up in their subconscious. So even if they ask me, we were on a flight and they ask me some really difficult question about the flight, if I didn't know, I said I'll find out and tell you. But I would not say something just to end the conversation. So I would always give a very sensible answer and find out about it. Even if he's 3 years old and he's asking me something about the cockpit and he may not understand, I'll still give him the correct answer. So that has kind of kept them balanced and not, made them think that their parents just speak anything and just end the conversation. So we've become very close as a family. I mean, just last night we were talking about it that we've traveled so many destinations, and all five of us have been slept on one bed many times. So it's just that that's the way we are. So there's no fighting that I need more space or I need this space. So if Manisha and me are sleeping and the younger one wants to come there and the two other want to join in, we crash with all five of us as well many times. So I think that bond is very important, and that kind of trust and that thing that my parents are not partial to one kid. I feel that is very important, and we've kind of maintained that from the very beginning. I think for us right now, there's been no real difference. It's just that girls are more calm when they grow up. When they're in the younger age, when Myra, Kiara were young and we were working on the laptop next to them, or they were working on the computer, Manisha could be like holding her with one hand and doing work on the other. And with a boy, that's not possible. They are boisterous. They want that bursting energy. They're jumping off from here. So you have to be a little more careful with boys, because there are chances that he may jump up the sofa and jump from there, or go up somewhere and try to hurt himself. So with boys, that's the only thing, that the energy levels are very different. So you need to be a little more cautious and careful. With girls, they kind of, I think, they listen, they are more sensible, I feel, than the boys. So both, to be honest. I mean, I'm great fun with them, and I keep teasing with them that should I become a strict father? I think I'm too soft with y'all. So, but when there's something which I need to be firm about, they know that when I mean it, I mean it. So they, I'm 95% fun with them and 5% a bit strict and 5% a mix of firm, because I think that balance is required. But I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm a strict parent. No, I'm not a strict parent. I have, like I'm saying, this 1.5 years we've been pretty much working from home, and I mean, normally, like you see, other kids would not want their parents to be hanging around the house. Like, but with us, it's been like we are doing Instagram reels. We are doing like fun stuff together, making videos, taking pictures. We are like, I mean, literally, we become kids with them. So I feel that uh, with Manisha also, I think it's the same thing. She also is a mix of being best buddies with them, and then when you need to be firm, you have to be firm. But I think I'm a bit more firmer than Manisha when there are certain things that I want to impose, or certain things that I'm sure about, that no, this can't be done. So then Manisha will say, okay, you handle this part. Or like, suppose if it's a screen time thing, so I'll make the decision. So today you're getting 30 minutes and that's it. And then the phones come to me. So, and it happens. So when there are times like that, I have to be firm. I am the firmer person. Basically, although it's not definitely not a themed calendar, but it still has a lot of concepts, because each idea is different from the other. It's not like you're just doing a random picture which you would normally do for a magazine. I mean, there's always some location, or there's some concept, or there's some. So each picture is a concept and a story within itself. And it's always something which either it's a strong styling, whether it's a real strong concept in terms of a photography concept, or something about the lighting, or something new every time we try, or there's some props, or there's some location. So we try to add a lot more into every picture, rather than just make it a plain white background picture, a plain gray background. It's not just a straight studio shot. There's a lot more thought that has gone into it. There's some kind of, whether it's tattoos for the guys, whether it's a different hairstyle for the girls, whether it's a classic white shirt, like a boyfriend white shirt look. So we think of ideas of what we should do with each actor. Like, so in the same, there's in Ananya, we had a puppy, we had my dog with her. So, and then we shot in an outdoor location, like made it look almost like Goa. I mean, that kind of a resort vibe to it. So each image is actually created with a lot of thought and a lot of brainstorming that goes into it, in terms of. But yes, there's no theme which I follow in all the 24 pictures, because I feel my heroes, my actors are so strong on its own. I don't want them to be overpowered by trying to fit them into a concept. In that case, what happens? The concept becomes the hero, and then everything is working as per the concept. For me, my photography has to come out and my actors have to look great. For me, those are two more important things. So I try to bring out different elements and styles of photography. So there are people who have actually, photographers who are specialized in doing baby and maternity shoots, and my tips and tricks to them would be is that you need to have amazing amount of patience. That's your, I mean, that's your, other than being technically sound, other than being quick, other than being pre-lit on, keep your equipment ready, your lights ready. All those things are understood, because you have to be very, very quick. You can't miss the moment when you're shooting with kids. So you have to be have a good sense of humor. You have to have patience. You have to, uh, be able to converse with your subjects. I think shooting with any, as a people photographer, you need to have that ability to communicate with people. If you feel you're not patient, or you're not a people's person, or you're not good at chatting, then you should probably do photography which is of tabletop product shots, where jewelry, where you don't need to converse with, still life. But being a people photographer, you have to communicate. You have to tell the model in front of you what to do, how to perform. So you have to have that vision of what's going to look nice, what colors are going to look nice, what the backdrop is going to be, and all that should be done all that should be before your shoot, so that you don't waste the time and don't lose the moment when your models are actually ready in front of you. With maternity shoots, I feel it's about softness. It's about getting your softest light, and creating a beautiful memory for the person who you're shooting. So it should be. I think the shoot should be more, like more dreamy rather than dramatic. It should be more soft rather than hard and harsh. It should be. You should even make the maternity, the girls feel that they are they are they should make them feel great about them. Only then they will be able to express. Only if you're feeling good about yourself, you can look good in front of the camera. So the vibe and the energy that you give out to your models is very, very important when you're doing shoots like this, especially. Today when you're working with a professional model, the model is going to do their job. When you're shooting real people, you also have to behave like a real person. You need to have compassion. You need to relate with the people. You have to connect with the people, and don't think that you're going to finish it and wrap up and go away quickly. You have to give them enough time, and make them feel great about themselves and make them enjoy that experience, because it's a very special time for them. So I feel that that connection and bonding is very important when you're shooting with people like that. So I mean, one great way is to always have always have your phone with you. So don't get really caught up with that I want to achieve it on a DSLR, or I only want to achieve it with a high-end camera. If you're shooting, it's more important to capture the moment rather than trying to focus on the technical bit. If you're not a photographer, don't experiment on the time when the moment is there. You should experiment at a time, or learn at a time which is either prior to the shoot, or when it's your own time, when the baby's sleeping, or when you're doing your own experimenting. You should not experiment and lose the moment. I think having a great smartphone with you is better to capture the moment rather than losing the moment with the technical glitch of your camera. So if you're good with the camera, fine, try and do it with the camera. But rather than trying to play around with lenses, changing your lenses and losing the moment, it's more important to capture the moment than be technically sound and capture something in high resolution. So so very, very often when I'm traveling, I will have a mirrorless camera with me, but I will definitely have a good phone with me as well, because not every time you can pull out the camera and capture something. So today, if my kid is walking on the street when she was 3 years old, on a or in London, I've got moments where you don't feel that you can remove your camera and set up the lens, but if you capture the video on the phone, it becomes a great memory. So I feel that uh, uh, you should. I mean, if you're good with the camera, great. You should keep practicing, but always have a backup of a smartphone with you. That's my one tip, which I would definitely what I follow as well. And then uh, try and shoot if you're shooting with the phone as well. you can shoot in a raw format. Many phones support raw format, so which will give you a resolution which is very high, and you can even 10 years later reprocess that image and make it look fresh and new. Now, see, way back when I started photography in the 90s, that time photography wasn't really a career option which was mainstream. In those days, you're an engineer or you're a doctor or you're, one of these. There were 4 or 5 professions in India which were considered as great jobs or great professions, and the rest were not even, recognized. Now, photography is a great option as a photographer, as a career, and I encourage people to do it because I feel that there's great amount of creativity that you can get. You can get, you're getting paid for something that you love to do. But one thing is that, like any other profession, this is also as demanding. It's as hard. There's as much hard work. It's not about just, shooting the glamorous people. It's about creativity. It's about evolving your style. It's about, you can do one great shoot, but that's not going to take you through your whole life. You have to keep evolving and keep pushing yourself and keep improving your work. Keep, getting more and more new ideas. Keep in touch with what the new fashions are, what the new photography trends are. So there's, like any other profession, any other career, you have to put a lot into photography as well. So don't think that, because it looks glamorous and because you see me or other photographers shooting with top actors, it looks easy and cool. There's, to get to this, it has taken a lot. It's been 25 years of a lot of hard work, maintaining your name, delivering good work for so many years. Only then you can stay as a name and be respected as someone. In these 26 years, I mean, it's sorry to say, but I've seen many people who made a bang and then just fizzle out. So in every profession. So similarly in photography as well, you need to keep fired up. You need to stay there. You need to keep thinking of ideas. You need to keep bettering your style and see how you're going to improve in the next shoot and the next shoot and the shoot on. So today, when I've shot with an actor, say like Shah Rukh, I mean, or Mr. Bachchan or Aishwarya, or any of these people from the beginning of my career, and they are very much around today as well. So my style also photography has changed down the years with them as well. So today I've done, say, 1,000 shoots with Shah Rukh. For the 1,001 shoot, what new am I offering? What am I going to do? So my mind is also evolving and thinking that, okay, with Akshay, I've done 2,000 shoots. What will the next shoot be? What will I do different? So the constant process of excitement, the constant process of creating something new has to be there. You cannot be content that, okay, I'm a good photographer and stay there. No. Someone will overtake you and go away, will not even come to you. So you have to keep yourself really, really energized and fired up, to last in this profession. So in the year 2000, when actually in the December of 1999, everybody was talking about Y2K, the new millennium, and it was the talk of the town. Of everybody was saying, the new millennium is here. What is going to happen in 2000? And so I said, what better way to bring in the new millennium than launch a calendar? And in December of '99, I actually just compiled a few of the shots that I had done. I started my career in '94. So from '94 to '99, I gathered some of my pictures and just printed 1,000 copies of a calendar. An agency friend of mine helped me to design it and print it and everything. And so I honestly at that point I thought it's going to be a one-off thing just to celebrate the new millennium. but the response I got from that calendar was amazing, and I like everybody, and it was because it was such a short notice and it was made from stock images. It was with 12 actresses only, the female actors. And when I put it out there, all the male actors were telling me in a joke that why are you being partial to the women? Why not put us also in it? So then that the idea struck where I said I'll start actually shooting something specifically for the calendar. And from then, from 2000 onwards, so my 2001 calendar was an actual calendar which I had shot 24 images for, so 12 boys, 12 girls. I compiled the calendar and I put it out there. And then, it just became a yearly, it became a thing that, okay, who's going to feature in Dabu's calendar. And year after year, because of the support of all the actors and the technicians who have worked on the calendar. My 22nd calendar is just released, and it's I think it's an expression of art. It's an expression of putting out the creative work out there. So I really enjoy doing. I think it's a great time of growth for me in terms of you're brainstorming on concepts, you're thinking of ideas. I feel that there's some amount of work that you do for yourself as a professional. The whole year we are doing commercial work. So this is one project which you put in, just do it for the passion of photography, and I think it brings out an amazing, result, and I think it helps me to evolve and keeps me buzzed and fired up for the